Hey everyone, I just wanted to post a quick video to help you get started with your functions assignment in case you are struggling or a little bit frightened of getting into it. So I provided you the file uh, here that has two files in it. So main is where we're going to call the functions from, and then functions is where we're going to define what the functions do. All right? So I'm just going to give you a couple setup tips here. I'm not going to actually do the functions for you, but I'll give you an idea of what to look for, a couple errors you might run into. So first of all, if you just run the program right now, you're going to get an error that I warned you about up at the top of the file here about how um, this functions has no attribute hypotenuse. Okay, this error you can see is coming from line 8 in main. Okay, so if we go look at line 8, we can see that in line 8, I call the hypotenuse function. Functions is the module, hypotenuse is the function in that module. If we go to the functions module, there is no hypotenuse function in there, which is why we're getting this error. So that's what that means, that it can't find a hypotenuse function in that library. So we need to define that function. So we need to go to functions and do define hypotenuse. Okay, the hypotenuse function has two parameters because when you find the hypotenuse of a triangle, you need to know the legs, right? So that parameters are the information that we need to have in order to complete the function. We did a functions example in class where we did some math with a couple of numbers. Um, so the parameters for this are similar. You can name them anything you want. You can go A and B, so it's kind of like the Pythagorean theorem. You can do num1, num2, like we did with our example in class. As I've tried to tell you a lot of times, the variable names do not matter. All right, so I'm not going to show you the math. You should know how to do the math for the Pythagorean theorem. Act like you're solving it, right? So num1 is A, num2 is B. What do you do with A and B when you do the Pythagorean theorem and return the hypotenuse? Act like you're solving for C. Okay, if you want to literally make a variable called C, so that stores the answer, let's just pretend that we're going to do num1 plus num2. Let's just pretend that that's the answer. Okay, then we will return C because when a function has calculated its result, it returns the answer, except for the frog one. The frog one's not going to return an answer. The frog one just prints. So return that value. Now let's go over and see what happens when we play it now. Okay, so when we play it now, again, I call it with 3 and 4. You should know from geometry that a leg of 3 and a leg of 4 produces a hypotenuse of 5, a 3, 4, 5 right triangle. So the hypotenuse of a right triangle with legs 3 and 4 is 7. Okay, that's because my function just added the two numbers together. It's not doing the math correctly yet. Hypotenuse of a right triangle with legs of 5 and 12 is 17, because again, I just added 5 and 12. So you need to do the correct math there. But at the very least, now we can see that our function is up and running. And that's what is super important when getting into deeper stuff like this is you need to see anything. Just see something, okay? Get started. Get that ball rolling, right? I want to just see some value returned here. You don't have to do all the coding first and then just like cross your fingers that it all works out. You can just return anything. Like I could just return, if I really just wanted to like see if it was working, I could go return 5 and the answer would just always be 5, right? Seeing the answer is 5 here, the answer is 5 here. So that's a good way to get started is just can I call the function at all and get a returned answer? Now, we have more errors below because now it's getting to the part where it calls frogprint, which is the second function, and we don't have a frogprint function. So again, if we're going to get errors there because That function doesn't exist yet. Frog print has one parameter, which is the number of times we're going to print the frog. So you're going to have to use a for loop or a while loop in this function. So you do times as the variable. Okay, and again, you can just print something if you want to see the result. This function is not going to return anything because its job is to print the frog, not to return a frog. So here are 3 frogs, and then it prints 3, right? That's not what it's supposed to do, but at least I can see that it's doing something now. And now our error has to do with the divisible function, because the divisible function is being called and it doesn't exist yet. So you're going to keep getting that error until you define all the functions. So don't worry about that. Okay. I think that's it. I'll put in for now. Um, as always, email me with questions that you have, but hopefully that'll get you started.